And I know Dallas is a city, so I know it's not as bad as the small towns, but did you ever witness people getting beat up and taken to jail and all that for protesting and speaking up for justice and whatnot in Dallas?
No, I never got the chance to be in that,
Okay.
vicinity when that was happening.
Would you just see it on the news a lot?
Oh, lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And were you ever afraid that stuff like that would happen in the city? Like more things
Oh,
would
yeah.
Mhm.
Because I would hear about it, but I'd be at home. I
Mhm.
wouldn't go out. But it was pretty, we were pretty scary then because the advocates, we were more afraid of the advocate, the one that was speaking against it.
Mhm.
We was more afraid about our lives. I
Mhm.
was bold enough to come out
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
help us out.
And like, how did you feel when like President Kennedy was elected? How did you feel about him when he first was elected? Were you
Oh,
on his side? Were you
we
rooting for
were so
him?
happy when he was elected, and I guess we thought he was gonna solve
Mhm.
everything. I guess because that's when I started working for the school system, Roosevelt. I never forget. The day is the 22nd, the day that he got
Oh
killed,
wow.
and that was my husband's birthday.
Oh.
I never forget that. It was his birthday on 22nd of November, and the children was so. I was at school, and all those high school kids were just fainting and falling out,
Mm.
and the nurses was running everything. That we had heard that he had passed.
Yeah.
We just thought didn't know what was going to be next.
Yeah.
I guess that was a sad day.
Were you scared at that time? Like, how did you feel scared that things were going to get worse when you
Well,
found out he died?
I felt so fearful about it because they really didn't know. I don't think who did it then.
Mhm.
So I don't know if any, I don't remember if anybody being that I knew was downtown when it happened. But it was awful feeling. It was a gloomy day
Mhm.
that day. They was sad. Everybody was sad. Every time you meet, go to church, they was sad about it.
Yeah.
Here in the city, the president.
Yeah.
That was something. That was something.
Yeah. Especially after all the stuff that happened in Washington, all the like victory moments
Yeah.
and everything. Cause how was that? Like the day of just seeing everybody joining up in Washington to really speak up and.
Oh no, I just watched it on the news.
Mhm.
We didn't know what the next step was going to be. What was going to happen to us? Were we
Mhm.
going back? Are we going forward? Because it was still, it was free. They were free, but there was still so much segregation.
Mhm.
People find them hung in the woods, and they say they committed suicide themselves. And talk, who was that? Emmett Till, I think,
Mhm.
in Waco, I think. They said he just came down and they hung, did him so
Yeah,
bad. You
beat him
read
so
about
bad.
that?
Yeah, and how his mom left his
And
casket
I
open.
remember that so bad.
And how was it teaching at Roosevelt because it was still segregated?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how I know you said that maybe you didn't go through a lot where your family
Mm-mm.
was being able, were the students, did their families deal with stuff like that? How was it just
It was
children coming to school every day and their
it
stories?
wasn't no white. It was all black during
Mhm.
that time. In Roosevelt, they were all black kids, and later on, that's when they integrated
Mhm.
the schools. But they were, I guess, the kids was acting, that kids do act. But it
Would
was,
they come to school? How was it for them at that time though? Would they come to school? Like I know they were probably happy to have a place to go, but at the same time, knowing that everything was segregated, did you feel that it was an anger?
that
Like
was,
anger was among all the
you
children.
would have quite a few of being angry kids,
Mhm.
because when the blacks started moving to south part of the town, that South Dallas at least, that's when white people was living in South Dallas.
Mm.
That's when Madison was all white.
Mm.
That's and all on South Boulevard was Jews living, rich Jews.
Mhm.
That's where they were living. So when they stopped moving, I know my sister-in-law bought a home in South Dallas, and They got bummed. Some of them got bummed. The houses,
Wow.
they bum a set fire to the house.
Mhm.
Some of the houses got burned, and they didn't know who did it. Or yes, they have those signs of that, those, what you call those, white
They would put signs up.
extremists. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they put signs up. Throw balls, fires a ball in the house.
And they just wanted all the black people to just go
Some
away.
Some of them moved back where they came from because they was afraid. You know, you're afraid you're moving in a white neighborhood.
Yeah.
And some neighbors are still there, white, next door, and they didn't want their neighborhood to be mixed up like that. So they did that for a while, and then they finally moved on. Because when I bought this house, it was in 60, in 58. We bought it. I've been here ever since.
Wow.
White man sold it. They lived here. I lived. We bought the house next door first, and we lived up, and then they wanted to sell it, but then there was white beauty shops.
Wow.
On the corner places. All was still all white, but they finally moved out and became, wherever they went, it all became black. But it was nice when we first moved over there. But they were still afraid, you know. We didn't know who was going to come back. Whatever they were going to do. Yeah.
What was something that you were the happiest about, that something you couldn't do when you were a child, that after like the laws were passed and all the equal rights laws were passed, that you were able to do? What was one thing that you were just like the most excited about?
We could go places, could sit anywhere you want. You could drink from the fountains, and they took most of those colored signs down, and we felt more free in walking to town. But we still knew we were black, you know.
And were you bothered a lot just going through town and with that freedom, did people like just still say phrases?
They wouldn't be friendly to us, you know, because it took a while. They weren't friendly because they knew it was free. We were free. And desegregate things, was careful. Some folks wouldn't allow us in the places, but they knew it's against the law. But some say it's high. The price is so high to you couldn't go in it anyway because the price, you couldn't afford to go in.
Couldn't afford it, they would just keep making it higher.
You can still stores like Neiman Marcus. They never did allow us unless you working. Now, I had people that work in there, as long as you can work in there, but you couldn't buy the clothes because it was too expensive, and they wasn't paying you enough money to live. Well, and we could still work in private homes, but we was living in southern quarters. That's why my niece was living. But when she came home, bought her home over here on Sutter, she couldn't bring them. Later would bring her home, but she had to stop off in a neighborhood that's an old house or something. Couldn't bring her home, otherwise she wouldn't have a job. But, and couldn't drive a car, a nice car. You had to ride the bus.
Wow.
Couldn't let them know what you were doing. That's the way that was.
And another thing I thought would be really interesting with just entertainment. How was it? Because I don't know the year when TV first came out, but how was it when maybe you saw first like all black cast on like a TV show? Like, do you remember the first TV show you got to experience with just a black cast?
Yeah. Well, we were so excited.
Do you remember what show it was?
Most of black was, what is that? With the red lips and
blackface.
You know.
Everything before was blackface.
But it's with the first black cast.
With the first black cast. I mean, we're talking about the 70s, maybe Jefferson's.
Or is it the guy that was? It was like he has like gray hair. It's not him.
Jefferson's.
It is the Jeffersons. It is the Jeffersons. Okay.
One of the first.
It was nice. Well, we was happy
Yeah.
When that movie would come on, everybody didn't have TV would go, the Jefferson's gonna be on. And it's another movie, The Dance, what's his name? What's his name? He had one out.
Sammy Davis Jr.
Sammy Davis, yeah. He came on. It was so exciting.
Nipsey Russell.
Yeah, and Russell and all that. But all them movies, they had to act black. You know how they had to act to get the show.
Okay.
And then it wouldn't get much,
Yeah.
My husband was a musician for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
He just would travel. Buses, but he wasn't paying. He wasn't getting anything. The bus just let her.
Okay.
Call from